And welcome to this all Florida edition of the 941 Sports Zone. I'm actually in the 904, visiting my brother up in North Florida. I'm Spitz. John, I believe in miracles. Masoni could have predicted that one. We'll talk a lot about what was a tremendous hockey tournament, at least at the end. And Team USA gets the gold for both the men and the women. We'll have the weekend in college basketball. What a weekend, considering it wasn't, it was just an ordinary weekend in February. Anything but. And we saw a lot of the top 10 teams go down, a shakeup in the standings. We have another new winner in golf, some sad news out of the NFL, and more. The 941 Sports Zone, presented as always by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida, locally owned and nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. Give them a call at 941-251-4257. Again, that number, 941-251-4257. Well, the Olympics wrapped up Sunday with the gold medal game in the men's hockey tournament. And as expected, it was USA versus Canada. As expected, it was a tight game, although I'd have to say Canada carried the play for most of the game, but they couldn't end things in regulation. They had a couple of glorious opportunities in the third period that did not develop.
Open net.
Open net by a guy who was highly critical after the game. We'll talk a little bit about that. Connor Hellebuyck was tremendous. He stopped 41 of 42 shots, including an incredible save on Devon Toews midway through the third period. Still trying to figure that one out. The puck literally looked like it was behind him. He put his stick between his legs and knocked the puck away. Anyway, 2-1 Team USA on a game-winning goal by Jack Toothless Hughes, who lost a couple of chiclets on a high stick in the third period. Yeah, in the third period, that actually gave the Americans a chance to win the game in regulation, which they didn't take advantage of. Both teams had golden opportunities before the game winner. John, your thoughts? First of all, I was looking for the rating. They're not out yet, but I got to think that it's going to top 10 million, maybe even 15 million.
Yeah,
and when you consider right, and when you consider that the folks on the West Coast had to get up at 5 a.m., it could have been a dynamite number if there wasn't for the time change. I'll let you talk now.
The timing of the game was great. Sunday morning ish. And you got an opportunity to wake up and watch a unbelievable hockey game. That it really, I mean, it's when you homogenize it down, okay, to USA, the best players in the USA and the best players in Canada. There isn't that much of a difference. Now, I get it. Canadians, that's it's about hockey. Okay, they own that sport. But when you're talking about the top 25, not thousands of great hockey players, but just those guys, it's a much tighter match than I think maybe the records show. I mean, obviously, it's 46 years since there's been a gold medal for the USA, which you think about it, you think no, they had to win one here and there, but no, right. Because again, for years it was always the professional Russian teams and Yugoslavian teams or whatever you want to say that were dominant because grown men were playing college kids, at that point in time, and then you start to see where the NHL came into play and just. A couple bounces here and there didn't go right for the Americans. And don't forget, too, that we're talking about Canada and USA, but my goodness, there's so many other European teams, countries that have great hockey players and hockey teams. Mm-hmm. And so there's that to be considered as well. But for it to go that long, it was surprising to me once I sort of had the realization of it all. But in this particular game, at this particular time, it's pretty close. And I think stress, expectations, all those different things, that might have been an underlying thing with all the Olympics. Okay. The Michaela Schifrin situation where she hadn't won anything and finally just said, screw it, just go ski. What are you doing to yourself? You know what I mean? You look at the figure skaters, the female figure skaters, getting tight and then not feeling, not giving it their full flow. The quad god, looked like he was a a 14-year-old learning how to skate, in the middle of his biggest moment of his career. So that pressure at high expectation is not easy to live up to. We see it a lot on golf courses. We're talking about golf, where guys have to, hey, all you got to do is get up and down for a par and you win, or all you got to do is sink a 2-foot putt, and or you got a 3-stroke lead and you start choking it away because you're playing too conservatively. It is a difficult thing. I think the Canadian team, I think that pressure might have shown somewhat. It wasn't just that we're so much better that we can run circles around these guys. We may be better, but not that much better, and that pressure might have brought the game teams even after a bit.
I thought we carried most of the first period and got the goal. Matt Boldy scored to make it 1-0. But towards the end of the first period, the Canadians started to play a little better. And in the second period, they dominated. And that is when Connor Hellebuyck was at his absolute best, stopping numerous chances, a breakaway. He ended up stopping 2 breakaways. Celebrini had the last one. Nathan MacKinnon, we were talking about him earlier, missed an absolutely wide open net. I still don't know how a guy of his stature and of his goal scoring ability missed the net like that. And I think, John, you might have said it. It's a little pressure at that time. And, Hellebuyck kept us in it. Both teams, the 5-on-3 in the second period, where for a minute 33, the U.S. had to kill a 2-man disadvantage. And, I thought they might have been that best part of the entire game, because Canada didn't get any. I mean, they got 1 or 2 grade A chances, but in a minute 33, you'd expect 5, 6, 7. And they certainly played well. And when you're in 5-on-3, your best player's got to be your goalie. And
stand on his head. That's what you expect to kill a 5-on-3. He's got to have at least 2 saves where it's, wizardry to make sure it doesn't go in that net.
And then late in the second period, they get the equalizer. Cal McCarr tied the game. And quite frankly, at that point, I was watching the game with my brother, and I'm like, I'm not very confident. I think if we can get the next goal, I think the next goal is going to be huge. As it turns out, it was the game winner. But in the third period, Hellebuyck had that incredible save on Taves, and then the breakaway by Celebrini that he stopped. He was just absolutely brilliant. And here's something, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but this is the Olympics. You can't decide the Olympics on 3-on-3 gimmick overtime. I think you have to play at least 10 minutes, if not 25-on-5. If at that point things are still tied, then you got to start getting gimmicky, because the game starts getting long. These guys actually, they're NHLers. Injury starts to come into play. But to start it off with a 3-on-3, I said 5 minutes or less, and it was 2 minutes or less before the game was decided.
Yes, because the skill level of those guys, 3-on-3 is just, it's not this. It doesn't make any sense. I'll say this: it's not a what's bugging me for today, but down the road, I can see myself crafting a what's bugging me based on all overtime-ish, extra inning situations. They all suck. They're all terrible. They can't figure it out. It's like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. In the NHL, like I said, it's, shootouts and this and that. I get that. They're trying to do whatever they can to have a winner and a loser in these games. You don't want to have the old hockey line of 2019 and 18, as far as your record was concerned. If you weren't a real sports fan, you're like, what the hell is that? What is that all about? And how points for, points against in NFL, all those different things that led into these tiebreakers and overall. But overall, it's not a good situation. The NFL is getting close to getting it right, but still, it still lends itself to a possession each, even if nobody's rushing to get anything done. And I don't know, just that to me, there's a lot to be said. And in this format, 3-on-3 was really not the proper way to end that game. Both teams, I get Cooper was upset. I mean, he's he figured that this didn't sit right with him, but you knew what you're getting yourself into, and each team there was no advantage for either team. You had to just get out there and put one on net.
Yeah, and as it turns out, Nathan McKinnon, the guy who really complained basically after the game, said, well, you saw the game. You know who the better team was. Well, he was the guy that got toasted on what turned out to be 3-on-1. He couldn't get back. He didn't make the play on the puck, and that's where Team USA got the golden opportunity, and Hughes buried it for the victory. Women's game ended the same way. They had a shorter 10-minute 3-on-3 as it was supposed to, because and listen, Canada, for as much as they're moaning about the men's game, the women's game, they had a chance to put that game away. 4 minutes to go in regulation, and they get a power play up 1-0. They score there. The U.S. is not scoring twice. I know they're good, but they're not scoring twice. Instead, they for whatever reason, they didn't go 100% after the power play. And so the USA then pulls the goalie, Hillary Knight ties the game with 2:04 left with her 15th goal in the Olympics, which is an all-time record. And then Megan Keller with the unbelievable play in overtime. As good a play as you could see, men or women, just undressed the defender and backhanded it past the goalie. That was a golden goal right there.
I was going to say that goal, unbelievable. If you're any kind of a hockey fan, to see what she did and how she just tied that defensewoman up, and got in there and gets it 5-hole on a backhand coming across the crease like that. Just a great play by her. And again, and there's nothing you can do. I mean, that's a tip of the cap moment. You're like, hey, you know what? That's a well-deserved goal in that situation. And I think both USA teams, they both played maybe, I wouldn't say above they played up to their potential, which is what you want to see. And you talked about what some of the Canadian players. I get it. You got some sour grapes. It's your sport. You don't like to see yourself lose it, but that's going to happen. It's just going to happen. I mean, you maybe you're going to win 3 more in a row. You know what I mean? But it's not. I think part of the problem I have with it is that, be gracious. You've won a lot. These guys are going to play on your teams in the NHL. You got a lot of things you're going to say. Don't act like an elitist in a situation where you can lose a game. It's possible to lose against a very good team. This was not the junior varsity coming up to play the varsity. Okay, so
it wasn't the Miracle on Ice.
Right. Don't demean what it is, which is a great game, great goaltending, and one team had a win and it was close, and that's how it goes. You can't be the one. It's sore losers are maybe not where what it is, but just like, yeah, we were better, we were this. Yeah, okay, I get it. Maybe you are, but not that day. The day it mattered, you weren't that day. So you need a little back off on that a little bit. And I think I'll tell you another thing. And we're not a political show here. Obviously, we don't get deep into that stuff. But I think politics had a little bit of that extra effort because our president has said some things about Canada being the 51st state and other things in regards to his sort of war of words with their prime minister. And I think that sort of digs at them. They're a lot of these guys are playing, most of them are playing in the United States, and they watch news and they hear things or whatever it may be. And so I think there's a little bit more to it than just a hockey game. I think they felt like they had to that was going to be their stake in the heart to show them what they were made of, and it didn't happen, and they didn't know how to handle it. So it's unfortunate that may be the case, but hey guys, it happens. You lost. Again, tip the cap to the guy who made the play. You guys had the chances to make plays too, maybe more so than the U.S. did. They capitalized. You didn't, and see you next time.
Well, Megan Keller, by the way, is a defenseman or defensewoman, whatever you want to call her, making a play like that. And the other thing is they got to sit on this for 4 years. Both men and women got to sit on, knowing that the gold medal is in the U.S. in both cases. And I think the women could handle it a little more because the U.S. was a dominant favorite. Is in fact, I thought they played tight in the gold medal game
Yeah,
against Canada.
yes,
They,
I agree.
and until they pulled the goalie and got the tip in, it looked like they were going to go down. And they had outscored everybody in the tournament 31-1 before then. So, but the men, yeah, I will say Canada carried the play for a majority of the game. But we've seen this in hockey how many times that, once you get to sudden death, anything can happen. You got to put teams away in regulation. Hockey more than any other sport, I think, the team that just kind of hangs on and you should have put them away more times than not. You give them a chance and they take advantage of it. And, it's great for hockey. Let's see if the NHL gets a little bit of a boost from this too, because so many people watched. I mean, I don't know, what was it, Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon. The quarterfinals did nearly 7 million in the afternoon. I mean, like a 3:10 start. Holy crap. So
no, it's there's
the
no doubt
interest
about
was
it.
definitely there. And let's give NBC credit. They did a tremendous job throughout this entire Olympiad. I thought they were really, really good. I thought Mike Tirico did a tremendous job, doing the studio. And they don't have hockey anymore. If you remember, they lost hockey a couple of years ago. But they dipped in and they got Kenny Albert, who they used to have, and they got Eddie Olchuk, who they used to have, and they even got Brian Boucher, who they used to have. And they said, you know what, we're not going to chintz. We're not going to throw some guys because we don't have the coverage. They gave you great coverage right throughout.
No, you're right. So I'll go backwards a little bit. You just said absolutely 100%. Mike Tirico is the best host, or that guy. He is phenomenal. And for years it was Bob Costas, but Bob Costas sort of falls into the entertainment realm. He likes to pen little things and write stories and things like that. I think Tirico is just a sports junkie. Yep. Anybody who did what he did prior to going to the Olympics, where he's Super Bowl, the NBA, everything was going on around him, right? He's doing it, and he's putting different hats on and never skips and misses a beat ever. Does great interviews with figure skaters right after they win, and he's genuine, and he asks the right questions. He doesn't ask stupid questions. Phenomenal job by Mike Tirico, and all of them did a really good job. I thought that the coverage from having drones in Winter Olympics changed the narrative of that whole thing.
Absolutely.
You're going down the bobsled run. You're in the air where they're doing 19 flips in the air. You're seeing the ride down behind the guy in the half pipe. You're able to go and see what's going on in cross country in the woods. And there's just so many cool little things that they were able to do and put a really good effort into it. I think it'll pay unbelievable benefits to them as far as advertising is concerned for the next Olympics coming up, 28 in LA. They're gonna rake it in based on what they did in the Winter Olympics for this situation. Going back to the Canadian hockey team as well. Sometimes I look at it and some hockey teams are skaters. You get a team that likes to skate. They got one guy who maybe he's the gritty guy protecting on a certain line. But I thought the USA team had much more toughness to their play. They looked like the guys that said, hey, we're grabbing a case of beer before the game. We're all going to have a couple before we go out there, and we're going to kick somebody's ass. And whatever kicking ass requires. Is it a fist fight? Is it a check? Is it require me to take a block a shot? I thought that the USA team played like they were playing for a Stanley Cup, getting in front of pucks, not getting their teeth knocked out. Two sets of brothers that were one looked like they could have been Marchand brothers if the way they had their look, the Hugheses, and then you got the Tkachuks, who come from a pretty tough dude who played a lot of years in St. Louis. Their dad Keith Tkachuk, and I think that led the room. I read something today. It said the Tkachuk's door was never closed the entire time they were in the hotel, which meant if you needed to go in there, the door was open, symbolically or whatever it was. That's the kind of thing I think I had. I think that the Canadians might have showed up on different jets, or might have showed up with whatever.
Yes.
When you just look at it from that perspective, the grit wasn't there. There wasn't that grit that I saw. Tom Wilson is a cheap shot artist in my opinion. But if that's your grittiest guy, he's just a cheap shot artist. He's not. He's just not the guy that you want to look at and emulate. When you want to, the guy you want to do is look at a guy who's picking his teeth up off the ground and staying in there and getting a winning goal.
Yeah. Speaking of sponsorship opportunities, the New Jersey Devils have to be licking their chops off of that. It's just anything to get that. One of the more poignant stories in the post game, though, John, was.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, the Gaudreau story. Johnny Gaudreau. He's been a huge part of this team. He definitely would have been on the team. I mean, they didn't call him Johnny Hockey for no reason. Okay.
Right.
And the fact that they went in for the official picture and plucked his two kids out of the stands and just had them both on one side of his, I mean, I just, I'm not an emotional guy, but I was like, oh, wow. I mean,
yeah, it was huge. And
it's genuine. It wasn't something that was contrived. As a matter of fact, the Gaudreaus didn't even want to go out there. And basically the team said, please come on out. They didn't come out till the quarterfinals.
If it was contrived, you would have been hearing about it from the minute they landed in Milan. You know what I mean? Because this was not like, to me, it wasn't sort of like they didn't wave this banner the entire time. It was their own personal I guess motivation, if you want to call it that. It was their own personal story to that team. And I like when that happens, when I don't need to know everything, that goes on behind the scenes. But to know that, and that was a part of how they were thinking, boy, that's a grounded hockey club, even though it's made up of all-stars, a grounded bunch of guys understand what really is important, and showing the care for teammate family, or whatever you want to call it, that usually wins championships. It usually does.
Yep.
We call it culture, right? It's culture.
It is.
And so that's what it comes down to. And culture means a lot.
Sure does. Team USA had a tremendous Olympics, in my opinion. 33 medals. They ended up finishing second. They passed the Italians in the final week. 12 gold, 12 silver, 9 bronze. Only the Norwegians, who live for the Winter Olympics every 4 years, had 41. They had 18 goals. They had the one guy, you mentioned him in cross country, and I didn't write his name down. That's shame on me. 6 golds. All-time record, 6 golds and 1 Olympics. That's incredible. I don't care.
Everything he got in, and he won. He won as a teammate.
Yep.
He won on a short run, and then he goes out to the Piece de Resistance and goes out there and has a 50-kilometer race and wins that too. The thing that it is pretty impressive when you see it. Obviously, the courses, you do the course over and over again. It's different, but that hill. When he ran, he literally ran up that hill. He was, I know he was skiing, but he was running, and he knew that was from day one. He knew what this is going to demoralize my opponents we all get to the same spot, and I end up being 25 yards ahead of them before they get up to me. And what an advantage that he had with his skills. His grandfather, his 83-year-old grandfather, is his coach. It was a good story. Yeah.
See, I missed that.
It was a good story about the grandfather taking him under his, and still is his coach and still gives him motivation. And it was really a cool story. But that guy is unbelievable. He's obviously going to be hailed as the greatest Winter Olympian in one games as anybody. He passed oh my gosh, why am I? Is
Eric
it
Heiden? Yeah, Eric Heiden.
Yeah.
And by the way, let's give him the credit, because I just couldn't help myself. Johannes Hasflot Klebo. And that's how you say his name, even though it's spelled Klaebo. Klebo. What a tremendous job It was just really it turned out to be an excellent Olympiad. The winter, I'm more into the Summer Olympics than the Winter Olympics usually, John. I know you like the Winter Olympics. We
Yeah, I
talked
do.
about this a couple of weeks ago, but I enjoyed all of the coverage of all of the sports. I think it just, like I said, I think NBC and Peacock and all the platforms that they had, I think it worked out perfect for them.
Yes, and and sometimes the Olympics you see it, they're on 5 channels, 6 channels. You're like, where am I going with this? It's on True TV, it's on this, and this. They really kept it on USA, which was all day, and they kept and NBC had the right live things going on every single time. And then you go to Peacock and watch whatever you wanted to watch if you in that case. So I thought that was crisp, if you know what I mean. You didn't have to go searching all over the place and missing it. Like, oh, I can go check this and boom, boom, boom. You were able to check things, especially in the days that nowadays not as many people like me channel surf to find out what's going on. Now you got to know. Oh, I got to go to Hulu. I got to go to this. I got to go to that. So I think the sensibility went more with the Peacock way. It was on Peacock is what it was. It was
all live on Peacock.
Not the whole Peacock. Yeah.
Right.
So you didn't go looking around for it. You knew where it was. So again, whoever it is, the executive who got it all together, they deserve a bonus. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. Yep. They're enjoying themselves. All right. There's another Olympics in the books. As you mentioned, 2 years from now in the summer, they'll be in LA on U.S. soil. So we won't have this 6-hour lag. I guess that's the only thing that was a little disheartening is that, a lot of the USA games were at 3:10 in the afternoon live.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is. People were literally complaining that they should be playing at 3:00 in the morning because, we are the mighty US. It drove me.
They don't know. And that's one of the things. It's not surprising that but getting booed as a team, the hockey team getting booed because that's what the US does. It's about us, You don't realize that there's a lot of people, there's a lot of Mike Tiricos that are doing the games that are from Norway or from Sweden or wherever else it may be. They're all doing their own broadcasts, and not just so everybody's got something to say about it. And if you can't be courteous enough to just take the fact that it's happening in another country 6 hours away. Just understand that's what's happening. But again, either it's arrogance and ignorance all mixed into one.
And guess what? In 2030, they're in France. Pretty much the same time difference. So I think it's 6 hours. I believe it's the same. So
they're just going down the block.
Right.
They're just going over a couple mountains to France, and that's where they're going to end up. Yep.
All right, the 941 Sports Zone, episode number 27, presented as always by the good folks at Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. Give them a call at 941-251-4257, 941-251-4257. Let's get that roof fixed up before, dare I say, hurricane season, which starts June 1st. Those of us that are trying to dig out in the Northeast don't want to hear anything about. Apparently this storm would have been a Category 2 hurricane.
Yeah,
that's how strong it was. Seeing some pictures, unbelievable. And I had actually my brother-in-law says, you know what, it's okay until Jim Cantori shows up in your town. Where was he? Plymouth, Massachusetts. Yeah. Hello, goodbye. Yeah. And some of the scenes out of Plymouth were absolutely wild. I saw a video from 6 a.m. on Monday morning. Just snowing sideways, the wind just blowing 60 miles an hour.
I heard something this morning. Montauk out on the eastern end of Long Island, 85 mile an hour winds. That was your Category 2 winds right there. So I mean, thinking about it from a snow perspective, everything blowing around, you're like, how am I going to get out of my house? In some of these situations, snow drifts and whatnot. And there's a lot to be said about that. And even having these remote shots early on, it looks docile in certain spots where you're like, but wait a second, that tree is full of snow and that tree may not hold up. And where's it going to end up? Power lines, roofs, cars, you name it. So there's a lot to be said now that this is, well, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but a warm up quickly might be the best thing. But I don't know if that's going to lead to some sort of flooding. Who knows? Because that's a lot of snow to melt off.
Oh, it's
You
not
know,
going to get warm enough to do that. I saw a thing on the news. I think I told you last week. If you get a 40-degree day with sunshine, it it melts about 7/10 of an inch of snow a day. That's not
right.
much. You're
Not
not
enough.
going to get any
Yeah,
flooding.
not quickly.
April,
Yes.
May now, you could definitely
Right.
see get some days in the 50s and the 60s. All right, back to the sports. College basketball. What a weekend. What a week, really, but particularly what a Saturday in college basketball. And it happened to nuzzle right in from between the semifinals and the finals of hockey.
Yes.
I found myself watching a lot of college hoops. I watched a ton of the Michigan Duke game. Uh, Michigan, for once this year, couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, particularly in the second half. I think Duke's defense had a lot to do with that.
No, I totally agree
Um,
with that.
and the Blue Devils got themselves their 12th quad one win, 68-63. They are the new number one team. They played in a neutral site, which was Washington, D.C., kind of closer to Duke than to Michigan, but both teams were well represented. It's kind of funny, too, because I believe I heard a story that both Michigan and Duke use a Nike ball during the games in the regular season. They pulled out the balls that they're going to be using in the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
They tried to make this as much of a tournament atmosphere as possible. The place in DC was jumping, and let's give credit where credit is due. First of all, I got to give you credit. Another win and a lock of the week. You had Duke, but the Blue Devils shut down Michigan. Yes, they couldn't throw the ball in the ocean, but that was because Duke was in their shorts the entire game.
I agree. I thought that watching that game, I never felt the doubt that Duke was going to win that game. It seemed like Michigan was doing everything they could possibly do to sort of figure out how to get around Duke. But what it is that, and now, mind you, I'm not being anti-Big Ten here by any stretch of the imagination, but I honestly believe that Michigan has not seen a team that could roll 9 guys out like Duke could.
No question.
Okay, and you watch some of their better players on Michigan. Really, it looked fatigued, mentally fatigued. Like,
towards the end
how
of the
come I
game,
can't? I'm off my mark. I can't go straight up and make my shot. I got to make an extra dribble. I got to take a foot back. They just looked off their mark the entire time, almost looking like we don't know what to do and how to stop this. Boozer didn't play phenomenally in the first half.
No.
And then he came on later on. But that's what you say, like, man, we held him, but we got another half a game to play here. I just thought it looked like that 1 through 5, Duke was better than Michigan, and then 6 through 9, they were better. And so I just looked at it and thought, Michigan, not that they have to make any overhauls, they are what they are, but I don't know if you're going to see them be the contender that they've sort of been promoted to be. That's just an opinion. I don't have any solid saying this, because matchups are always going to be different. I just don't see Michigan as the team that's going to do that. I have more faith in Michigan State than I do with Michigan.
Ooh.
You know, the big guy,
that's off the ball. That's an off the wall take right there, considering everybody that I've listened to over the weekend. When you talk contenders in the Big Ten, they don't have Michigan State as a contender for the Final Four, which I think is kind of interesting. I know they've struggled a little bit, but struggle in February, do your work in March. I agree with you in that end.
Yeah, if you lined up by ranking down to Michigan State, it's from Michigan to Michigan State. I don't see a team in between them that I would say, oh, Michigan State has no chance to beat them. If they play their style of ball and they rebound the ball, whatever, there's none of those teams. Nebraska, Purdue, Illinois, right up the ladder. I don't see it where there's going to be like where's Michigan State's kryptonite? I don't think there is. So that's why I end with the experience that Tom Izzo brings in the style of play. Great backcourt play. Go rebound like you know what, and go win games. And they're not going to win 101-98. Okay, they're going to win 62-59. That's how they play these games.
Yep.
And I think that's a winning formula. I really do. And I mentioned about Michigan, the big guy, the big kid, Mara, whatever his name is, 7'3". I know he's got some skill, but I think when he gets against some quality big men, he's gonna have a hard time not fouling. He's gangly, he's awkward, and they're asking him to do things like I see him down low, but he's sort of running the break. He gets some scrappy little things. I don't know if he's in there, but I don't think he makes a gigantic difference for a big guy like he is. I think he's down the road. He could definitely, but at this point, I don't see it. So I think that going back, I don't see Michigan as a big going big, and I think that they'll probably get a 2 seed at the least, unless they just totally crap the bed the rest of the way through that. But I could see them being beaten by a team that's a 7 or something like that down the road.
That's interesting. Michigan is currently still one of the ones. Duke's a 1, Arizona's a 1, and Duke,
UConn.
I think Iowa State jumped UConn because UConn lost earlier in the week. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting tournament. I think, you know what, if you're Dusty May, you look at the positive of this. You can self-scout. You can figure out, hey, what did we do? Maybe we didn't make. You could use this as complete as a learning tool. As Jon Scheyer has done with Duke. I mean,
yes,
the job he's done with Duke. Listen, we talk about it all the time. The guy that replaces the legend usually is the guy that's a placeholder for 2 or 3 years, and then somebody else comes along and takes the program back to where it's been. Sheyer's done an amazing job right after Coach K. I think he's done, and I'm not a Duke fan, but I watched them play the other day. They are 100% all in for Coach Scheyer.
When you saw Scheyer last year, okay, there were some times that you looked at it and said, look, like maybe he was sort of not quite sure what to do in a certain situation. But when you looked at him, okay, he just looks like the right guy. You know what I'm saying? Like his demeanor.
He's got the right temperament.
Right. The temperament is that's exactly what it is. His temperament is like, got it. You're in. He's like a leading an orchestra. He's not over the top. He knows when to talk to the refs. He's got a sort of a calm demeanor about him. And when you have great teams, great athletes, you don't need people screaming in your face all the time, especially this day and age as athlete. Okay. Right. Maybe when Bob Knight was a coach, he could do what he did until he couldn't do it anymore. But nowadays it's more like hey, I'm your guy. I'm going to get you in the right spot. Let's do this. Let's do that. He seems to be the 2.0 version of Mike Krzyzewski in some way. So, and I bet you that Krzyzewski knew that this guy had the chops for it a long time ago.
Sure.
So they did the right thing by it. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So we'll see how that all turns out. Rich, I will tell you this too. I think I might have said this before, but I think that there's probably 12 teams that can win it. I was saying maybe 8. Now I'm thinking more like 12. Some I might say, well, who do you think? I might not think Houston's going to get to the Final Four or go far, but they could. They could. So I think there's a lot of they coulds. When is Iowa State going to finally have their breakout where they make it to a Final Four or whatever happens? So let's see how this all rolls out. A lot of good teams, a lot of good players. Should make for very exciting tournament. I think I'm really looking forward to the tournament this year, and I'm looking forward to sitting down the first Thursday when it starts to see how some of these teams are going to look moving forward.
Absolutely. I'm the guy that likes to pick the upsets and all that, but I could see this being a very top-heavy tournament, John. I really can. I think, here's an example. Iowa State loses Saturday in Provo to BYU. Okay, BYU's ranked.
Right.
But because they beat Houston earlier in the week, they actually moved up 2 spots.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. These teams, and this is the other thing. Yeah, that's a conference game. And, the Arizona-Houston game was a conference game, and Arizona kind of righted themselves a little bit. Right. After a rough week, they got a nice win on the road at Houston. I mean, Houston has been tremendous since arriving in the Big 12 at home. I think this is the first time they've lost more than one home game since they entered the Big 12, which is rather incredible. But you're not going to see in November a college football game like this, like where Michigan and Duke are going to play each other as a 1 versus 3. You're not going to see that, and I think that's where college basketball kind of gets it. Well, these teams have no fear. Well, we'll play you. We'll play you anywhere, anytime. We'll play in November. We'll play in February. Because they know to get to the ultimate goal, you've got to be tested. And I think I love that. I love that the coaches are not afraid to schedule good teams. That's why you get these tremendous matchups. Yes, some of them are in conference, but you get a non-conference matchup like Michigan and Duke in February because both coaches know to get to the ultimate, they got to do some self-scouting, and I think it's fantastic.
And this time of the year too, Rich, it's talking about these matchups. Losing a game like Michigan did, I think it's a good thing in some cases. You can take good out of it if you're smart enough. And I think honestly, right now, let's say the top 16 teams in the country, maybe top 20 teams in the country, look, their records are all over. Miami of Ohio's undefeated, this, that, whatever it may be. The real one you want to look at is not that record. Look at their conference record, okay? Because that's where you're going to see who's going to get in where. That kind of shakes it out. Or the early season matchups where they're great for TV. At the end of the day, if you win those, is that going to project you up the ladder a little bit? But you can still get where you need to be. What's between a 1 and a 2? What's really the difference? Okay, there's no home field advantage. If one not plays usually. 2 and they're playing in a neutral site, that's why the tip off is not. There's no first nothing. It doesn't make a difference. So 1 seed versus 2 seed means nothing. So there's 8 teams, and if you're one of those 8 teams, you played a tough schedule early, like Florida did, and you lose some of these games, which are better down the road, and you win your conference, you're going to get a high seed for those situations. So look at your teams where their conference record, see how they're doing, and then you'll know where your team's going to stand, and then it's going to be a matter of matchups from that point.
And Duke probably looks at the ACC the last several years, has not been the ACC of the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, there's 3 or 4 really good teams, and the rest of the conference is meh. So they put a Michigan in there to test them a little more. I just think I can't speak enough of it. We mentioned the Arizona-Houston game, BYU-Iowa State game. A team that's going in the wrong direction is Kansas. They lost at home to Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati's playing well. They've won 4 in a row. And Peterson played the entire game on Saturday, and they still lost by 16 at home. That's a team that concerns me. They go on my list with Purdue over here as a possible early out, as a decently high seed, maybe a 3 or 4.
There's more to be said about the Kansas situation. I have something that for a little later. But I will tell you that I think that there's been a lot of things swarming around Bill Self the last couple of years. Health, different things. I don't know if that's a healthy team unit, whatever you want to call it, as a whole. I don't think they're healthy. So I'm not. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I see them sort of being one of those sort of what happened to them at the end of the year kind of teams. And there's a lot of moving parts to that, a lot of pieces to that. And I'll mention a little later some of the things I'm also looking at from that team.
All right. I'll let it be till a little later then. By the way, the other top 10 team to lose was Illinois. They had to go out to UCLA. That's, I think, the one thing that gives the Big Ten a slight advantage when you get into the tournament. There's a lot of travel. They've got to travel in the regular season. And, the 2 nights ago, they punked USC. Now, USC's not nearly at UCLA's level. They've actually really struggled. But give UCLA credit. They've had some issues. Mick Cronin had literally threw a kid out of the game a couple of nights before and took a lot of heat for that and had to apologize. But UCLA keeps playing well, and they downed Illinois in overtime 95-94. That's a nice win. That probably cements them into the tournament if they weren't already. That's and I think that's where the Big Ten might have a little bit of an advantage, the fact that they've got to do some serious traveling because now the Big Ten is literally global. They're all across the country.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, right? UCLA. Sure. Um, Can you compare sort of UCLA basketball to Notre Dame football? Not Notre Dame football has their standards, or the school does, whatever. But when you watch, how dominant UCLA was for years with John Wooden, and then they sort of kind of kept it going a little bit, and then all of a sudden it sort of fell off a little bit. I mean, but it's still UCLA. It's still California basketball. I mean, how they're not getting every great player in the state of California to go to UCLA, but just the fact that Pauley Pavilion is a shrine to what college basketball was all about. I see that there's I just see how Notre Dame has sort of floundered in some situations. Sort of just they're not they want to say we're Notre Dame, and not saying, well, how are we going to win? It's not just saying that Notre Dame's not going to make you win.
Right.
And I look at UCLA and I'm like, man, is it because they're a state school? Is there something, they can't draw people? I don't know what it is, but there's something that you would think that UCLA wouldn't be having to get a good home win over Illinois to secure themselves a spot in the top 64. Especially now they're in the Big Ten. They're getting a lot of splash in the media by going out and playing, because somebody say, oh, it's the West Coast bias, they don't pay attention to them, blah blah blah. No, they've been dragged into the middle of the country at this point, so they shouldn't have those sort of issues. But very peculiar for me to see UCLA sort of never really get themselves. They had one good year and a good year here, but nothing that was sustainable. They seem they're more on the down than they are on the up.
Well, I think some of that, John, has to do with the financial situation. They're having a little bit of an issue with the Big Ten, and of course that comes from football,
right?
And the fact that the football team is not that good. They play in a old antiquated Rose Bowl. They're now moving over to SoFi, which I think is actually going to help them. I really do. I think it's good. Yeah. I think it's a little closer to the campus. It's definitely a better stadium. You're going to draw more fans just because it's SoFi as opposed to the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl, for all of its pageantry and everything it has going for them, is an old, antiquated stadium. Let's be real. I mean, you don't even have seat backs. So
I was there 30 plus years ago. I went to a BYU UCLA football game on a Saturday. It was Ty Detmer versus Tommy Maddox. Big, you figure it's a huge game, we're like, we said, hey, let's give it a shot. Maybe we can scalp some tickets. Well, when you go there, you got to park on a golf course. It's not even like there's really not, it's kind of quaint. Pasadena is beautiful. You walking around, and you look at the stadium. It's only not as tall as you think it is because it's sunk in the ground more than anything else. Right. So it's not a big over the top stadium from the outside. We see people waiting in line. I'm like, that must be where must be will call. And we went over and like, is this will call? Like, no, you buy your tickets if you want to. I'm like, I can buy tickets. And I went up and they had to say, where do you want to sit? Okay, I'll sit here, whatever it may be. And that was 30 plus years ago, and they've been doing the same thing ever since. And they still couldn't sell that place out no matter who they played. So you're right. Is it a cool place? Yes. Is it the most convenient thing in the world? No. And getting to it is not the easiest thing either. So, SoFi was built for NFL fans, have a spectacle and everything else. So I could see them definitely looking that way, and saying, "Hey, this is how good we can be, and this is where we want to have our home now." I can understand that.
Let's mention the Florida Gators, because they are moving up the charts. Another tremendous road win. They've had, I think, 4 or 5 consecutive road wins by 19 or more. They win 94-75 at Ole Miss. They go to the Grove. They take care of business. This is a team that's rounding into form. Todd Golden has his team playing well. The guard play is so much better than from November. That to me is the biggest difference in this team. They've got an awesome front court, but they're getting play in the backcourt now. And they played themselves. If they win the SEC, it's not out of the realm for them to get a 1 seed.
No, I agree. And if you watch Florida, you can turn your back and they'll go from being up 7 to being up 20 in a flash. And they're not doing it, by raining threes in. It's
defense,
hustle, down court, big guys running, you name it. We said we were talking. I actually Saturday I got off the golf course and forgot the game was on. I was watching golf and a good old Gator boy walked up to me and said, "What are you doing? Why are you watching the basketball game?" And I forgot. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're right." But we both agreed that if Boogie Fland and Lynn can shoot 30% from the field and not have a bunch of turnovers, boy, that front court is so good, good that and that's even with Condon, who can be kind of a gangly goofball every once in a while with the ball too. They're good. They're really good. So yeah, there's no doubt about it. A run at another natty would be a hell of a job by Todd Golden.
Absolutely. By the way, Miami of Ohio, you mentioned them earlier. They routed Bowling Green on Friday night. They remain unbeaten, the only unbeaten in the nation at 26-0, but they still are in the 20s when it comes to the poll. So, I think that's where their landing spot's going to be. And I think if they can remain undefeated and run the MAC, they might get a 4. But I
say a 4 is the best.
I can't see any more than that, really, to be honest with you, because
if you're in a 3,
non-conference schedule,
you're in the top 12. It doesn't make any sense. No.
Yeah. All right. Again, the 941 Sports Zone presented by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. He tried to say locally owned, nationally backed, delivering exceptional roofing for homes and businesses throughout the Gulf Coast. 941-251-4257 is the number. 941-251-4257. PGA Tour, the Cali swing ended. Went to Tiger's Place, well, his tournament anyway. Genesis at Riviera had a lot of rain on Thursday, but they got back on track. And we'll talk about some of the other players in a moment. But Jacob Bridgman came out of the pack, got himself a 6-shot lead on Saturday, and then had fingernails on the chalkboard down the stretch. He shot a 72 while everybody else was shooting. Rory shot 67, Kurt Kitayama shot 64, and we're nipping at his heels, but he managed to hang on to get the win. Another signature event. So $4 million for Bridgman. John, had he won before?
No, first time ever. And it was, as they talked about how it was he at Tiger's event and Tiger being there, and talked to him afterwards and with tears in his eyes, because, he probably was kind of dawning on him what he had accomplished, had said, boy, I thought it was going to be way easier than that with the lead he had. So it didn't hit him till 16. He goes, then I just held on because every shot, every putt got harder and harder and harder.
Yep.
And that is the truth. There's something to be said about that. Finishing out a tournament, first time you've been there, is a real tough deal. Ask Tommy Fleetwood how many
times. Yep.
Once he broke that door open, he won two in a row, after that, or whatever, 3 in a row. So it's difficult. Sometimes it's the first win might be better off when you're coming from behind and somebody else chokes it and you get the win. But he spent the whole day in front and managed to sink a 3-footer, which should have been a 3-inch putt. I looked like no break, uphill, everything you'd want in a putt, and he left it 3 feet short. Oh, and that's the worst feeling ever. You're like, I can't do that again.
Hit the ball, Alex.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Because then you think to yourself, because you start thinking, okay, 3-footer, don't leave it short again. Then you blow it through the line, and you got another 3-footer back for bogey to make it to a playoff. So it can go that fast in that short of time. So kudos to him. Clemson Tiger. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how he does the rest of the year. But his year is made. Gosh, it's probably his next 5 years are made, because he's going to get exemptions all over the place. And there's so much that goes more. The prize money is fantastic, but what goes towards your career is way more important as far as staying in the PGA and all that other good stuff. 700
FedEx points doesn't hurt either.
That's good. Yeah.
Pretty nice. Rory, nice tournament. Gets to within 1. I thought he played very well. Struggled a little bit on Thursday, but even though he shot 5 under, I thought, he probably could have shot 7 or 8 under. It was hard to read the greens. The guy I'm a little puzzled by is Scotty Scheffler. Scotty
Yeah.
Scheffler is a Thursday problem. I mean,
Yes.
he finished 11 under par, and when the it was too dark to play on Thursday, he was 5 over par. And he's
Right.
done this now in several different tournaments. It's almost like I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a head start, and then I'm just going to come rushing.
Mhm.
He's got to fix that a little bit before he gets to places like, I don't know, the Players, which is 3 weeks away, the Masters, which is coming up as well. And I don't know what if you can put your finger on it. Can you,
No,
John? You're a more golf guy than me.
I'll say this about Scotty. You know, Jack Nicklaus said it a long time ago. I probably said it before as well, that the hardest thing to do is raise a family when you're a golfer. When you're out there on your own and you're just freewheeling and swinging and got your coach and whatever else. But now you got a kid at home. Wife's probably saying, what time are you leaving? And whatever. Maybe you don't have the same focus, maybe not the same warm up. Who knows what it could be? You know, sometimes you're like, you just, you know, that's the kind of how it comes in. You don't feel like you're ready. You're totally prepared. You play the course and like, oh, okay, now I got to figure it out. Took me to crap the bed the first day, but I figured it out from here. Playing Pebble, Waste Management, Torrey Pines, all that California swing. Sometimes the golf courses aren't the same.
Right.
And I look at Scotty, and Scotty didn't win a lot on the West Coast other than Phoenix, which is, I think, is very much like all the other TPCs. There's something they're sort of, not that they're cookie cutter golf courses, but same sensibilities to the way they cut those golf courses out. And you know, in Arizona, you know, it's not California. There's definitely some different grass, different stuff going on in California. So
Yeah,
it may have been a California thing, and maybe that could be something. I'll be interested to see how he's geared up heading into the Masters. I think that's where I look at him. Where is he headed with that? I'm not overly concerned for him. My money on Scotty this year is the U.S. Open. I think that he's gonna. That closes the gap. That's all 4. He's got them all. Then, you know, I think he's gonna be really, 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 really after that U.S. Open this year. So if I'm taking Scotty Scheffler in my fantasy league, I'm taking Scotty, holding him to the U.S. Open to see if that's where he comes through. Mentioned Rory. I like the way Rory looks. I think the weight of the world is finally off of Rory. The guys are coming back. He stood and took every blow and everything else, and you know he pounded his fist about legacy and PGA and playing the best and everything else, and he held in there. He was the face of it, and now it's out of his hands and it's going the way it's going to go. He looks a little more comfortable in his clothes than he did in the last couple of years, and the breakdown after the Masters probably showed that was probably a lot to do with that and to do with what he's been dealing with. I want to see how he looks at the Masters, because I think now that door's been kicked down, Rory might win it 1 or 2 more times, because that's a course that's set up for him. He was ready to win that years ago. So we'll see how it is. But I like the way Rory looks. He'll be okay. And there's a lot of guys right underneath that are going to be really good, Rich, and competitive all year. So I think when we get to Florida, it's going to be interesting to see who starts to. You see these guys that are top 10. This Mitsasuni. I'm not saying it right.
Mitsuyama?
It's Mitsasuni. His name is.
Okay.
He's been top 10 every week for the little bit of time. He's about to break out. So there's some guys up there that are going to break out, and some guys are going to jump on that you haven't seen as much because they don't play California as much, that you'll see in Florida, and you start seeing everybody start to play these tournaments.
Well, it's interesting how the schedule sets up, John. They had 2 consecutive signature events, Pebble and Genesis. They come to Florida. The Cognizant is used to be. Now it's not. It's a tournament in the Palm Beaches. We'll probably get most of the top golfers are going to take that off, because it's 2 more signature events right after that. The Arnold Palmer, it's another $20 million purse in Orlando, and then the Players. And I'm sitting here in North Florida. They are absolutely pumping the crap out of the Player as far as getting tickets and stuff. I want your thoughts, because there's been some talk that they're going to move. They want to move the Players back to May. Are you a March guy or a May guy when it comes to the Players?
Well, I know that there was weather issues in May. They talked about some different things that were going on, and then they moved the PGA up, so they didn't want to have that, whatever it was, sort of too much in a row. These big tournaments in a row. I don't mind March. I think I like March. I think it's a little bit less of a problem for them to get the tournament in a lot of cases. But I don't know how much big of a difference that makes from a marketing perspective. I think wherever the players lands, it's going to be good. It does affect the other tournaments in Florida. Like you said, who's not going to go to the former Honda, the Cognizant down there? Does Valspar get hurt a little bit because they're right afterwards? So it's like that kind of thing. Arnold's tournament's always going to get its run because it's Arnold's tournament. It's an invitation only, so there's only 80 golfers there, so that kind of thing. Right. So they're always going to be okay with that one. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Overall, I do like March. I think it's okay. I think I like it from a fan perspective. And but if it went back to May, I wouldn't have a big problem with that. They'd have to space it out, though. I don't want to see a major on top of a major on top of a major. Gets to be a little too you're losing the punch of it all.
All right, so I kind of messed that up a little bit because really, for it to move back to May, the PGA is going to have to move back to August, and I think there's been even more. I think there's even more of a movement to try to get that tournament back to late in the season. A lot of people feel that the British, at the end of July being the final major is too soon.
Right.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that all that they were hoping that the playoffs would sort of supersede that and be okay. Well, we got at British Open, boom, we start going into the qualifying, those qualifying tournaments to get into the playoffs and ending the season earlier, which I do like. I do like the fact that the season ended earlier because really, if you look at this year's Ryder Cup, it gave such a nice launching pad to sort of promote that, and you'll get the President's Cup this year. Problem, Rich, is that I think that PGA late in the year that it took some golf courses out of the contention for the PGA because the weather was just so brutally hot and it was kind of getting hard. So they think moving it up gave them some chances to play some other other courses that maybe they couldn't before. I'd like to see them figure out a way. I know if U.S. Open falls on Father's Day, I get that. Okay, so I get that. So, but maybe you have the Masters, and then they do these team things in New Orleans, whatever. Maybe you move those around and put and just like anything else, take priority. Put the PGA and say, look, we're going to put you right here. It puts us 3 weeks out from this one and 3 weeks out from this one. Let's do this here and let's get it right and get all these lined up so that we can get them. So we're moving along in the right way. I think it's manageable. I just don't think it's a one move scenario. I think you may have to move a few things to get it right.
No, I'm with you on that. No question about it. All right. A couple more things before we get to locks of the week and what's bugging me. Very sad news in the NFL over the weekend. Former Purdue and Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Rondale Moore died Saturday in his hometown of New Albany, Indiana, at the age of 25. The word is it was an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. First off, I've got a friend who's a Vikings fan, and he's, this like every couple of years they have a tragedy in Minnesota for some reason. That being said, this kid had his whole career in front of him. I know he had a season-ending injury this year, but just a sad story.
It's not an easy situation. It's, when you have somebody who's in that state of mind, everybody looks at a guy like that and says, well, what's he got to worry about? He's an athlete. He's got money. He has potential for more money. All the things that you think that you would think if you had all those advantages, if you want to call it that you would have never, that wouldn't be something that crosses your mind. It just goes to show you that when you love somebody and they're your friend or your family, whatever, ask them how they're doing, no matter who they are.
Yes.
How you doing? How's everything going? Because it's just too much. Sometimes things get to be too much for folks, and you think you have time to say things or whatever it may be. Sometimes one sentence, one word can change a life. And in this case, again, we don't know his family life. You don't know anything about him other than what he did on the football field, that for sure. and it's just sad to see. And I know that everybody, and when it happens, they definitely are, hey, call this hotline or do this or do that. But sometimes it's just being able to lean into somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? I know you work hard. I know you're doing the best you can. Take a breath every once in a while. If you need anybody, give us a call.
Yeah.
That may not work, but my gosh, it's the only thing we can do at this point.
Right. No question about it. And it just seems to be happening way too often,
Yeah.
but again, it brings mental health awareness, just brings it right to the forefront again.
At young ages,
be a nuisance. Be a nuisance if you have to. You know
Yeah.
what? Hey, how you doing? No, really, how you doing? I mean,
and my other life, my other job, I work in retirement communities, and you'd be surprised how the suicide rate in those places. And that's another thing. Knock on the door. Go see how your neighbor's doing, especially when you think that they're okay, and it's not. So sometimes it's in those cases you see a lot. You see it because life got hard. It got tough and whatever it may be. For a young man like that, life gets hard in other ways, and so hopefully there's ways to look out. Are there signs? I'm sure there are in some cases, but not always able to find out, or maybe that they're not looking for, willing to have somebody put their hand on their shoulder and say, I'm here to help you, because they think they have to be. I'm a big, strong football player making millions of dollars.
Right.
Why nobody's going to, I don't need any help. I'm I'm good. And it's not the case. It really isn't. Right. So it is sad. But I do think, I will say this, Rich, from a perspective, I do think that there's a genuine outcry for people to look at athletes a little more so than there was years ago. It was, again, I don't want to call it taboo, but it was not something that people wanted to walk and talk, mention to somebody. Because when you do that, if you're going to ask somebody how they're doing, they may say great, or they may say, do you really want to know? And then you're in, at that point. So the commitment has to be there if you're going to do that.
Some other NFL news. I know it's lighter, doesn't mean as much, but franchise tag period opened on the 17th and will be until March 3rd at 4:00. This used to be bigger, but last year there were just 2 players tagged.
Yep.
Did hear on Monday that it looks like new coach Kevin Stefanski of the Atlanta Falcons, it sure sounds like they're going to tag Kyle Pitts, the tight end, which I think is a very interesting move, John. He's a former Gator. I would certainly say that in his first few years, he's definitely underachieved, although he had a nice second half of last year, and maybe they're going to look at that and say, all right, we're going to hang our hat on him. But there aren't very many players that are going to be tagged, it looks like, from the list that I saw anyway.
His career, maybe not all his own fault, is a flop. I'm going to be honest, it's a flop. He was a top 5 guy at tight end.
Yep.
You don't see it too much. Okay, top 5, not top 5, but the top 5 overall guy, right? And I think there's been a little bit of that I don't think he's been used properly, my opinion. I think that the Kyle Pitts should have been the next who's the big receiver, like an Alshon Jeffrey or Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson. Maybe more
like that. He's not a hand on the ground guy. He's got to be split out a little bit. He's not Kelsey. Kelsey can go downfield. Kelsey can block. I think Pitts could probably block, but he needs to be there. You've got to run plays for him. He's special in that case. Look at Brock Bowers. Okay. Yeah. Brock Bowers is not your conventional tight end by any stretch of the imagination. He looks like a fullback.
Yep.
He runs good routes. He can catch. He's got good hands. Pitts is the same guy, same kind of talent, not the same talents, but the same kind of talent. Make plays for the guy. He can get you 100 catches. Maybe he'll only have 10 yards a catch or whatever, but how about getting him downfield every once in a while? It seems weird. They want to take a guy with his skill set, and somebody says, okay, here's my offense, and my tight end has to go like this. And even though you're number 1 pick, you're the guy. I think that sometimes that's silly. You got to make yours fit. Somebody's got to fit somewhere. You just can't say, well, keep trying. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Kevin Stefanski is a big tight end guy. He had David Njoku in Cleveland who played very well. So I think that's a
There you go.
positive from Kyle Pitts' point of view. I think he will get some plays run for him by Kevin Stefanski. So the question is who's going to throw it to him? I mean,
especially when you said he got franchised, I'm like, well, somebody must know something about him because they're going to keep him around and do something, not just keep on doing what they've been doing for the last 5 years with him.
And of course, the combine, there's been some news conferences from there, but it really gets underway this weekend, Thursday through Sunday. Should be, I mean, for you football fans that like to look at guys in shorts run 40-yard dashes, this is your weekend. Enjoy. Have a great time. I have never seen the allure of the combine. But football junkies just absolutely love it. So
I was a bit of that guy for a while, but now I'm not so much because half of the good players don't really even participate, so to speak. I will say one thing. I will be furious next Monday if I hear these particular words in any way, shape, or form. Jets are interested in Ty Simpson. Jets are interested in some other third-round quarterback. I don't want to hear it. Oh, the Jets fell in love with him and did a great interview, and his hands were 7.5, and his, whatever that hell this shit is with that. If I hear the Jets are interested in somebody, it's going to be bad. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. This is not the year for a quarterback, guys. Don't even think about it.
Yeah,
it's not there. And next year is going to be a boom. If everybody comes out, because the guys there's some proven guys coming out now, not guys that they're picking off a pile like they did last year with Lenore Sanders and whatever else. Show me and he's coming back too. Maybe he'll make a run, but there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks next year. So I think you're going to wait your turn.
All right, spring training games are underway. Got underway last Friday. Officially Saturday down in Port Charlotte. It's that time of year, and enjoy it if you're a Floridian. Enjoy it if you're in the 941. Make some trips to Cool Today Park and to Charlotte Sports Park, and even up to Sarasota to Ed Smith Stadium, because it ain't going to happen next year. They're going to be in the middle of a major, ugly contract negotiation, to get a collective bargaining agreement done. Tony Clark resigned. The Players Association's a mess right now. Tony Clark allegedly had relations with his sister-in-law. Just an absolute mess. And just the timing just is terrible. But maybe it's not, because a lot of people didn't really have confidence in Tony Clark, and his second moved up, and I think a lot more people, at least from the player standpoint, are confident that he can get something done. The problem is the owners have to get something done amongst themselves and figure things out. You got the haves and the have-nots, and the owners are pissed at the owners more than even the players in this situation. Right.
The haves and have-nots is perfect, because one team's got a $35 million payroll, and the other one's got a $400 million payroll. The disparity is out there. It's never going to change unless the owners agree on some things. One thing I think is funny though, Rich, baseball, and let's just say baseball is on the decline. I think that's not an unfair thing to say.
No, I think it's a fact.
Would you say that they're close to, if not number 3 right now, as far as popularity is concerned?
Oh, I think they're number 3 clearly.
With the younger generation, it's about the NBA. We know.
Just ask ESPN. I mean, they basically let baseball go, and they're going to have women's Sunday night. That's their alternative to baseball.
Right. So therein lies the problem, right? But there's so much freaking money that they're just throwing around wherever it may be. It's a very much a have and have nots. It is the super rich and the dirt poor. That's the bottom line. And so you look at that and you say, it's not every year that there's always a team that can have a breakout situation, but my goodness, you'd think they could figure it out, but there's nobody who bought a baseball team in the last 20 years who wants to say, yeah, let's do revenue sharing. Yeah, let's do this. Nope. They're not. They want no part of it, none whatsoever. And as long as those big market people are against it, it may never happen. The players are going to be, I get it. They may have some issues with certain things, but the big money guys, as long as you're keeping them fat and happy, how are you going to convince somebody to say, "Oh,
how are you going to convince the Dodgers to share"? Seriously, how are you going to convince? That's right what it comes down to.
Right, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And when the Yankees want somebody, they get them or they keep them, whatever they do. So that's how it works. And it's unfortunate, but that's how it works. And that's the game they created. They own it. They can fix it. No one's telling them what to do. They can fix that shit. They don't want to. They just don't want to. Neither side does. We're good, but we got to fix something. What are you going to fix if you're both good? Because if you're both good, you're going to fix the game, but you don't care about the game. You care about the money. If you're worried about the game, there's a lot of baseball historians, you know what I mean, and purists that are in and around baseball that are not taking one opportunity to try to fix the game so it can get back on the rise again. They all go, I get paid. What's the difference?
Getting a salary floor is about as important as getting a salary cap.
Exactly right. Make somebody pay some money. There's no doubt about it.
And all the bottom owners, the ones that don't have a TV deal that Major League Baseball is going to run their network, Rays included, Marlins included, they don't have nearly the money in the deep pockets that the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets and the Red Sox do.
When I heard that they're going to be a part of that, is it 7 teams with MLB? They're going to broadcast the games on.
It's up, John. It's up to like 15 now.
Okay,
it's 7 this year.
Right. So I get it. I know that they're trying to make them so they have something that they can put themselves out and market themselves on. But it's sad that you have. I mean, let's use the word. You got 15 teams on welfare. And you got the other, how many teams at 8, 9, 10, 15 living on Park Avenue? What the how does that work? You know what I mean? And if you're the guy that's on welfare, and in the Rays case, we can talk about that forever. They were happy to be on welfare.
Right.
Oh, just give me how much you're going to give me? Great. We'll fall right underneath it. I'll put the nice, cool amount of money in my pocket while my investment continues to go up and up until I decided to get out, or I was forced to get out, or whatever it was. Never really truly negotiating in good faith with anybody in either side of the bay on any of that stuff. They back out of something as soon as something else came up. Though what? Oh, better offer? Okay, yeah, we'll scrap that one. We don't care. They didn't care, and so that's what it is. You got guys like that buying baseball teams. Maybe you should be more careful about who you sell a baseball team or who you allow to buy a baseball team to.
Right.
Hey, guess what? You buy this baseball team, you got to spend $85 million on the payroll. You in or you out?
Yeah. Well, I think the floor is going to be more like 150.
Well, that's what I mean.
And but that's where the teams have the problems, especially those that no longer get money from a TV contract because the TV people, the FanDuel went under. So who has a cap and who has a floor? What do you know? The NFL. Well, and everybody talks about who's going to be the Wellington Mara and step up and say, listen, for the good of the game, we need to be able to revenue share. But I don't see any of these guys doing that.
Never. No, they're a different bird. They're different people, different culture, and the ownership is not the same. Not even close.
All right, it's time for locks of the week. Both of us won last week. Michigan State won and covered over UCLA. They won easily. They were up almost 30 in the second half before cruising to victory. And as we mentioned earlier, Duke beat Michigan. So, John, you're on some heater, 15-7 overall. I'm 13-9. I would normally be happy with that, but you're smoking.
You're still good.
Yeah. So let's look at this week and see what we have on the docket. I'll go first. There's a team that is on the bubble that needs wins on Tuesday. Missouri is at home against number 22 Tennessee. The Vols are an up and down team, play much better at home than on the road. Missouri needs a win, and I'm going to go with the team that needs a win. I'm going to take the 4.5 points. and I'm going to take Missouri against Tennessee, and that is a Tuesday night game.
Missouri is a good they're a good basketball team too. They're dangerous. So
Yep.
yeah, they need to get in there. And then Tennessee, they should beat Tennessee. I agree with that. All right, I have a Kansas theme for my next two things. So I look at my lock, and I mentioned Michigan State, how much I like Michigan State. I was thinking Michigan State over Purdue or Arizona over Kansas. I like Arizona over Kansas better. I'm going to go that route. I think Arizona is the favorite, no, they're at Kansas, I believe, but I think Arizona is still the favorite.
Are you talking about the game tonight, Houston and Kansas?
No, Arizona
later in the week. Okay,
later in the week, yeah, Arizona over
just
Kansas.
pick the winner. It's too early to have a
Arizona win at Kansas. I think that Kansas is in a sort of a weird situation. Arizona got a punch, lost a couple. Now getting back on track, and I think Kansas is one they can pick off. So that's my lock.
Arizona. All right. So we'll see if we can continue our streak. Well, it sounds like you're chomping at the bit, so I'm going to let you go first on the what's bugging me.
So it's not really something that's like that it's over the top or anything like that. But we're looking at a situation in Kansas where there's a player that they're trying to figure out whether or not, and a very good young freshman player, like NBA ready, top high in the lottery, right?
Yep.
Peterson. And so he just pulls himself out of the game. Yep. They don't know, what the situation. He didn't know he wanted to leave the other night. He left the game. You mentioned even when you were talking about Kansas, and Peterson played the whole game, right? Yeah. That's a big deal. So now the situation, look at it and saying, well, wait a second. Is this a situation where we have to look into a gambling issue? Is he taking himself out of the game because someone's giving him some money to not play or not play in the second half? And is that possible? Because you just can't be a healthy scratch on your own, okay? And Kansas doesn't have a lot of answers for it right now. But the NCAA is starting to look at it and saying, wait a second, we got a problem here. We can't have a guy deciding when and where he wants to play when there's certain things on the line, which is gambling. Okay. It sort of looks like this guy is making decisions that a guy who's emboldened to a gambler would do. So my question is that with gambling becoming more and more and more and more a part of college sports and every sport everywhere else, how long before we have to start looking at everybody's injuries and looking at everybody's reasoning behind them not playing? Are we going to second guess somebody and say, well, is your ankle hurt you that bad? Did you really, are you really concussed? Like that kind of thing, because, once you took that leap and became partnered up, hey, DraftKings has a show on ESPN, or this thing is sponsored by this person. Right. Everything now, when all the crawls, it's over under O/U, right? All the betting line is going on the crawl for every game before it gets out there. So you've made it it is part of every sport out there at this point, okay? And if you got a young guy, wherever he's from, whatever he's done, and he's got friends at home are like, man, we need to win some money off of you. So what are you going to do? I'm only going to have 12 points because when I get to 12, I'm going to tell coach I ate a bad burrito. So this is a real issue. Again, it's bugging me because it's something I have to think about now and talk about, but it really hasn't reached the point where it could be an absolute, it's bugging me because it's ruining the sport, or all sports for that matter. It's always been there, but now it's out front, and you're learning how to be a gambler at 11 years old because you got a phone, or you're learning how to be a gambler, because your buddy's like, hey, I got I got so-and-so with 10 over 10 rebounds tonight, and I got 20 on it. They're learning all about this stuff now, and it's going to be a big part of either some growth or some real bad situations. And that's what's bugging me.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm trying to look up the name. John Calipari had a press conference the other day. One of his players was injured, actually walked into the office with a boot on. Okay. This was right before the double overtime game against Alabama.
Okay.
And Coach Cal's like, listen, if you want to sit out this game, I completely understand it. You're still in a boot. He goes, Coach, we lost the last game. I'm playing.
Right.
And he not only played, he scored 49
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
Okay. There's your difference between Peterson and this guy.
Right.
I'm not sure. I mean, you bring in a very interesting aspect, and you got to think about it. You really do. And I, as a guy who throws down a couple of shekels, didn't think of it that way. I'm thinking the guy's just kind of protecting himself, trying to get to the draft, doesn't want to get hurt, doesn't want to chance anything.
Yeah.
But, you really got to start wondering. Last game that he pulled himself out, Bill Self was like, I had no idea the guy was
Right.
coming out. I had
Right.
no idea that he was even hurt or anything was bothering him.
Rich,
So,
a guy like him could rationalize this real quick and say, you know what? What does it matter if we lose to Arizona or we lose to whoever? We're going to make it in there. And you know what? I'm going to show you what I'm going to average 35 points a game. And when you get to the conference tournament and then the regular tournament, I'm going to play. So what does it matter if I sit out because I got a bellyache or I want to make my buddies back home a little money?
Mm-hmm.
That's the rationale you got to be careful of. That's what it's coming from, because they don't realize that that's not the case, because there's somebody who's a bad guy, okay, who might say, oh, you're willing to do that? Well, guess what? I'll give you this much and you can give it to all to your friends. That it's easier because I'm going to make millions off of your not playing. That's what that's what the nuances that they don't understand. And it's hard to even convince somebody if they don't believe that that's the case.
And I would have thought NIL would have kind of lessened that. A guy like him is making serious money. What does he need? What does he need mob money for?
Never enough.
But you're right. You just don't know. All right, my thing that bugs me, and I wish I was working spring training games again. I did it for many, many, many years. But the thing that bugs me is the way spring training games are now, John.
Mm-hmm.
If you're traveling, and let's put traveling in quotations, because if the New York Yankees drive down from Tampa to Port Charlotte, an hour and a half,
Right.
they only have to bring X amount of players from the 40-man. They only have to bring X amount of starters. So you get a bunch of guys with numbers in the 80s and 90s that are playing that are never going to see the field this year. And I just think spring training has become, for lack of a better term, a place to get a tan, and that's about it. I mean, if you want to go watch your own players, hey, cool, that's great, and usually they're gonna win anyway. But I don't like the fact that especially, I mean, and you want to really boil it down. How about all the teams that are up in the Tampa area? Like you got to go across the bridge to Clearwater. Well, you're going to bring 2 or 3 really good guys, and then the rest are going to be Scribinis. And I say the word Scribinis with all the heart. Listen, they're going to be good in the future, but I think spring training was ruined when they started doing that. And when I used to work it used to drive me crazy. The only good thing is they only bring X amount of players, so they can't make that many substitutions. Unlike the home team who could substitute freely after the third inning. You start seeing guys, from wherever and whenever. But I used to enjoy spring training. It got me ready for baseball. I used to enjoy watching some guys from some other teams. And now it's just like, if I lived here, I wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of like basketball in a way, unless you know who's playing, or you're gonna pluck down the books, and they make you pluck down regular season money to go to these spring training games that don't count.
That's what I was going to tell you. The price of the ticket is not what you think it is.
No, it is.
They don't hand them out at Publix anymore and tell you it's $80, $90. Some of these. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what's bugging me. Spring training has started, and I can't even get it. I don't even watch the highlights because, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be for the home team because they're the ones that are playing the guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Pete Alonso Friday, for the Baltimore Orioles. He came over from the Mets. He hit a homer in his first game. Well, yay. He probably hit it off a guy who's going to be an A-ball by the time spring training is over. Really? I'm supposed to get excited about that?
No, it's exactly the truth. I mean, you're right. It is to get a tan, Rich. I'm telling you. People do now. It's part of being on vacation. If you're retired and especially thinking about it from that perspective, from Michigan or whatever, and you're Lakeland and you're a Tigers fan, you take the day, you go see the Tigers play, and it's great. You have a beer with your buddy, you drive back, whatever it may be. It's not. I think it's not even about seeing the big players. It's just seeing the uniform, seeing it in a small environment, that kind of thing.
Good for them. I want to see more than the uniform.
But you're right. I'm not going, and I'm a sports guy. Okay, and that goes back to what I said earlier about baseball. You're number 3. Figure this shit out soon, because if you don't, you're going to be number 4.
Yeah.
And you're going to wonder why. And it's not going to be number 4 because hockey passes you. You're going to become number 4 because you're going to be failing, and you're going to roll. They're going to stay still, and you're going to roll past them because you're in a failing situation.
Yep, you're headed
down. It's already tough to look at the sport itself. It's an international sport, okay? Yep. But the fan base is not international when it comes to going to the games in a lot of ways, okay? Especially, so you have to look at it and say, okay, there's things that part of the game that are going to be there are hurdles to come over. If you make more hurdles and make it more unlikely for me to go to the game, I'm not going to go. I'm just not going to go. Right. And I don't think that they recognize that yet. There's too much of the guy says, oh, it's America's pastime. No, it's not. It's
America's past time.
Right.
Past time.
And that's where it's coming. That's where it's coming.
All right. We did it again. Got to 90 minutes. That's another edition of that's another edition of the 941 Sports Zone, the All Florida edition. I'm in the 904. You're in the 941. Certainly do appreciate everybody watching, listening, subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Enjoy the show. Give us some feedback. We'd love to hear some feedback from you.
I always tell you, I get feedback. It's funny. It's always somebody different. I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, I agreed with you on that. I'm like, you should.
All right. I'm going to try to get back up to Boston, with the blizzard.
Do we have any kind of day you might be leaving, or is it just?
Actually, I booked a flight for tomorrow night. There's some flights. There was nothing. Everything was shut down for Wednesday, and now some flights kind of sprinkled in, and I had to pay a little extra, but you know what? I need to get home.
You got things to go home to. I definitely understand that. No doubt.
So I've enjoyed my time here. My brother, his wife have been tremendous hosts, giving me a chance to breathe a little bit for a few days. But it's time to get back. So next Monday, we'll be back from Snowgeddon, at least from me in Saugus, Massachusetts. And we'll do another edition number 28 of the 941 Sports Zone, again presented, as always, by Mighty Dog Roofing of Southwest Florida. For John, I believe in miracles, Missoni, I'm Spitz. Till next week. So long, everybody.